and yeah, do this thing. I guess for anyone listening on YouTube, I should probably introduce myself. I'm Claire Villarreal. I'm one of the senior students at Dawn Mountain, and I am really delighted to be with y'all today from Quebec in Canada. And oops, I forgot to mute my phone. I guess we should all probably mute our phones. So ironically, that was my phone telling me that this meditation had started. So I was doing my own practice this morning, and actually this was even before I started practice. Like all the stuff that has happened in the past like 3 days. It's like Friday, obviously we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg. My uncle died, and like the West Coast is still burning down. Houston's about to get hit by a hurricane or a tornado or tropical storm or something. Nepal had an earthquake. I was feeling overwhelmed. So I listened to obviously REM's Everybody Hurts. It's such a great song. I highly recommend it if you want like just a way of feeling better. And I was just like feeling this sense of being overwhelmed by events. Like I just wanted to just check out for a couple of weeks and get my act back together and then come back. And then I realized this is what we train for, like we always talk about practicing. And I had this realization, like we practice for when it's hard. And I think there's sort of a cultural narrative around mindfulness, like especially in the West, thinking that all meditation is mindfulness. So obviously, if you're connected with Dawn Mountain, you have access to a lot more than just mindfulness. But B, there's sort of this sense that you do meditation to make yourself happier. Like somebody Harris has this blog called 10% Happier. And the idea is if you meditate, you can get 10% happier. And like, that's cool, but it's not fundamentally life-changing in the way that like the Bodhisattva vow is. And if anybody's on who doesn't know what that is, it's the vow you take in certain schools of Mahayana Buddhism that like, I will practice to become a Buddha and liberate all living beings from all suffering. Which is something that's like beyond the scope of our ordinary mind. But I feel like it's moments like these for me when I feel like the importance and the reality of the Bodhisattva vow, or the idea of blessings, or the idea of lineage. I think like for me, the ways I feel of like kind of letting the tension of this moment off are either like demonizing and lashing out at sort of the other political side or whoever I see as the other, or just kind of retreating and like wanting not to have to deal with this stuff for a while, just like come back out again when it's better. And for me, I feel like the tools that we cultivate in meditation actually give us a really powerful third option of staying present and staying grounded and trying to be sources of light for ourselves and others in a dark time when we're all hurting. So it made me think about lineage. So as I was doing my practice, I really had this sense. I was doing Gundro foundational practices this morning before this, and I had this sense of like, we have this spiritual lineage to call on, specifically when things are tough, like we have this practice that was given to us by Adzam Rinpoche that we're going to do today. Like he's lived through incredible difficulties. If I think back to Longchenpa or Jigme Lingpa or, some of our other lineage lamas, like, some of the great Rime masters of the 19th century in Tibet, they lived through a time of civil war and great upheaval and chaos. And it just gave me this sense of, that these lineage lamas that we call on in our practice are not just like sort of these figures who always existed on a lotus leaf and, maybe they're quasi mythological to begin with. Like it gave me this sense of like, people have lived through this before, like we can call not just on like, I don't know, Guru Rinpoche's ability to like realize emptiness, but also on his ability to persevere and to like face down demons. and not be intimidated by them. And, to me right now, that's tremendously inspiring, because it just feels like these forces of chaos and upheaval and change, they're really a lot. And then I also started thinking, especially with the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I started thinking about this idea of ancestors. And she's on, I don't know, she's not in a body anymore. It feels to me like she's somehow more accessible to like bless us. Even if that's just my own perception of what's happening. But I was thinking about, we have all these like incredible social and even biological like ancestors in this lineage to call on in a time like this. So I was thinking of Gandhi, I was thinking of Martin Luther King Jr. and all these people who have gone before us and faced difficult times and changed the world. And to me, it really kind of cracked open my aspiration. Instead of like, I want to sit down today and just feel less crazy, I was like, I want to sit down today, connect to something sacred, and then go out and like, in a wrathful kind of way, like overwhelm the despair when it comes up within me, overwhelm the hatred when it comes up within me. So yeah, so I had those thoughts. And then even just reflecting back on, my own sense of like biological lineage or like ancestors. Like I have, on my dad's side, I have ancestors who were Jews in Spain during the Spanish Inquisition. And I just felt myself like kind of calling on them, like, hey, y'all, if you're in there somewhere in my DNA, or if you're like hanging out wherever ancestors hang out and like watch over their descendants, like, could y'all just hook me up with a little blessings right now? Because I feel like we're all together facing a really tremendous time of chaos and disruption, but also like possibility for when it's time to build a new world out of what's falling apart now. So those are my thoughts that I wanted to share with y'all. In part because thanks, Harvey Law. And I mean, I'm happy to stay like after the hour wraps up for a bit of a chat if you would like. But what I was thinking of doing was, guiding us through our regular meditation where we do our focus on the breath at the center of the abdomen. We sound the hung, and at the end we close with ah. But I also wanted to just invite everybody. Everyone on Zoom is really familiar with this stuff. So if you're watching on YouTube, I hope this makes sense too. And yeah, you can always post a comment or something we can try and clarify later. But I wanted to just invite y'all, before I kind of do the guided introduction to the practice, that there's something Harvey does with us sometimes. Yeah, so Alan says 10% happier, Dan Harris in conjunction with Joseph Goldstein. Cool. So I wanted to invite y'all, as we're doing this meditation, if you find yourself distracted by all the difficult emotions that might be coming up for people right now, I would just invite you to do something that Harvey has done with us often, which is a version of Donglen, where basically when you have a difficult emotion or experience coming up, you think, may my difficulty contain that difficulty of all living beings. So for me, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, may my sense of overwhelm contain the sense of overwhelm of all living beings, whether we're on the same political side or not, like may it just contain everybody's. And I found that really helpful in my own practice, to just not fall into that sense of like helplessness and despair, but to actually have a sense of like agency and, at the very least, training myself so that when I'm interacting with other people, I have a little more resources to draw on, instead of immediately going to maybe, you're wrong and awful, I don't want to have anything to do with you, or like, yes, let's all wallow in this together and just feel as bad as we can. So wanted to say those things. I noted you had unmuted earlier, Harvey Law. Did you have any comments?
I just appreciate the maturation that you're exhibiting in terms of taking the Dharma in and really bringing it into your mental continuum, as they would say in the tradition, which is namely really mixing it with our experience. And the experience is enormously challenging. And, you know, Songsar Kensei's book is just not for happy, not just for happiness. And so there can be this kind of hedonic orientation of Dharma practice, but really, Ken MacLeod, I think, is pretty strong in this as well. It's not just for smiley times or whatever, but to really provide a perspective that's vast and includes all beings and also our lineages. And so I think very, very touched to hear what you're sharing. Very, very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey Law. I know it's a little bit off script, but it just feels like a moment when, for me, a sort of like peaceful meditation isn't quite enough to cut through the haze. I think I needed something a little more like slicey. So with that introduction, let's meditate together. So you want to make sure that your posture is nice and upright, but also as relaxed as possible. And within that relaxed posture, if you'd like to let your eyes close, that's fine. If you'd like to let them gaze down at about 45 degrees, that's fine. The main thing is that your eyes are relaxed, they're comfortable, and your gaze feels soft. So we can just take a few moments and feel into the body. And if we feel tension in our muscles and our shoulders or our face, our lower abdomen or back, you can invite those areas to relax. And then we can let our attention naturally rest on the breath and the process of breathing. And if it's comfortable, you can immediately just settle your mind down into the center of the abdomen, the area around the dantian, which is a few finger widths below the navel and a few finger widths inside the body. Or if that's not as familiar, you can start by feeling the breath at the nostrils and feeling it flow in up through the sinuses, down into the lungs, and just imagine it flowing down into the abdomen from there. And imagine breathing back out. And then as you feel comfortable, you can just leave your attention down in the center of the abdomen. So we'll sit this way for a while, and then we'll sound together the sound Hong, and I'll give some instructions for that before we do. So for now, we're settling the attention down into the center of the abdomen and feeling the flow of breath in and out. And just a reminder, if your breath is settled in the center of the abdomen and you're really able to focus, then you can just leave it there. And if you find your attention being dragged off here and there, especially if it's called off by a strong feeling or emotion, you can use just a very gentle form of Donglin where you wish for your form of discomfort to contain the discomfort of all beings. Or if that's too much, you can just say, may my worry contain the worry of those I love. May my worry contain the worry of all beings. Whatever feels good to you, you can use that as an opportunity for practice. As we shift over to sounding Hong, we can let our attention go from the center of the abdomen to the sound of Hong, to ourselves making it, if you're hearing me through your computer, to that sound as well. So now we'll just sound Hong all at our own pace for as long as it lasts. And our attention shifts back to the breath now at the center of the abdomen. Once again, we'll sound hung together. And again, we sink the attention back down to the center of the abdomen. So now we'll move to the second part of the practice, and we will sound the sound ah 3 times. So, excuse me, first we'll sort of settle back into our meditative state, and then with the first ah, we'll feel that like a white light fills up our body and transforms our body into light. With the second ah, we'll share that light with each other and also feel that we're receiving from each other. And then with the third ah, we'll imagine sending that light out into the rest of the world, like however far your mind can take that. So I'm thinking we can spend a little extra time with that third part of it today. And also for those on YouTube, I'm going to try to just load YouTube on my phone and see if I can get names from the comments. So if you have names for the book, please just put them in the comments on YouTube and I will try and get those and read them at the end. So can start the second part maybe by just refreshing. Oh, perfect. So Emily is going to copy and paste the YouTube names here. Awesome. So just put your names in the comments on YouTube, please. So we can maybe just start by refreshing our intention. Like, why do we practice? And I mentioned at the beginning of this, you know, that sense of practicing not just for ourselves or our own well-being, but really to be able to share this, to have a resource to be present and maybe provide some benefit beyond our own immediate lives. So whatever your motivation is today, we can just take a moment and reflect on that before we do the second part of the practice, and maybe get in touch with your sense of connection or aspiration to connect with other people and have something to offer them as well. So now we'll just settle into our practice again. And soon we'll do those 3 ahs with a longer period after the third ah to really have some time and some space to imagine sending that out to the whole world, whatever that means to you. With that first ah, we imagine our body dissolving to light. The second ah, we imagine sharing that light and receiving that light. And with the third ah, we imagine sending that light out, sharing it with the whole rest of the world. All right. So to close, we can share the merit with all beings and share the names. I was thinking maybe everyone who's on Zoom, you can say the names. You can unmute yourself and say the names when we get there, and then I'll just read the names that Emily has posted from YouTube. By this good may I swiftly once become a great guru, lead all beings, everyone, to reach to that very ground. With all of you in mind, we light this lamp of clarity. May the glow of love, wisdom shine within us, everyone, till we all rise forth born in one enlightened mandala. So now if you'd like, you can unmute and say your names, and then I'll say the YouTube names at the end.
Gary and Emily, Darren and Nikki, Whitney, Peter, all suffering animals.
Michael Coogan and Sunny in the Bardo.
Uncle Chacho in the Bardo. Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Bardo. So names that were not said out loud or are from YouTube would be Sloan Davidson, Jacqueline Mandel's grandchild, Luis y Manuel Velasco, Sylvia, Rolando, Nathaniel, Emma, Ed, Leith, Penny, Penny's sister in the Bardo, coaches Reggie and Kay, Clarence Pruitt in the Bardo, all those who died of COVID and within the BLM movement, our lamas and all lamas, our and all sanghas, our skylit home, all suffering beings, COVID Shantim Kuruye Soha, and Jerry Harris in the Bardo. So thank you all for practicing together today and for all your practice that hopefully benefits us all in an ongoing way. And it's really lovely to get to meditate with y'all today. And Emily, are there any announcements? No, Emily says no. All right then.
Well, I don't know if Harvey wants to talk about the October 24th Discovery Day.
Harvey had to go. So I think it's you if you'd like to talk about that.
So on October 24th, we have a Discovery Day. It's very experiential, a lot of partner exercises, one-day workshop. So we suggest, if you can, to join us and to do it in person because you benefit so much more, not online, live, you benefit so much more. And it also has limited spots because the lamas are personally joining these partner exercises and giving feedback. So join soon. Yep.
Thank you. The Fall Teaching Tuesday series has started and is awesome. And if you're a member, you can join for free. So why not do it? Just go to dawnmountain.org and you'll find a link somewhere on there to register. You can watch those by YouTube also, but you have to be registered. I can't think of anything else. So thank you.
May I thank you for your wonderful talk, because it really reminded me of, oftentimes I at least think that there's just one way out of overwhelm, and that's just slowly calming down in mindfulness meditation or calm abiding. And you kind of, in a very nice, little bit fierce manner, demonstrated that there's at least one other way, snapping out of it, really. And this kind of feels empowering. And also the kind of alchemy of Tonglen, So it's just lovely to be reminded of that in your, inspiring way. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kaisu. Yeah, I have a similar sort of preset around dealing with being overwhelmed. So I'm glad to hear it kind of resonated with you too. Like, oh, there's another way to do this. Yeah, actually, I guess we're finished with the broadcast. So if anyone has any thoughts, I'm happy to stay on for a few extra minutes and chat.
I have to leave, but good to see you, everybody. Be well.